Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Aussie writers and other creatives.
Hello, and I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well, and Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, ideas, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
Hello there again, Lynn. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Rach. I have to say, this week's episode is just about one of my favorite types of content. I know this was, partly me driving this one. It's all about case studies because I do them a lot and I think they're both valuable to my clients and I think they're a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I mean, I have done a few lately, but it's not a core sort of service that I offer. But I think you're right, they are a really valuable thing for clients. And I think that they can be quite different. So they can range from sort of a project rundown type of case study to like a feature type of case study, or it could even be a video case study. I think there's been a lot of research, hasn't there, that video is more authentic if it tells the story from the customer's point of view and how the business helped to solve that customer's problem. And I think, it can be a really convincing form of social proof, can't it?
I think so too. And they can be all different formats. I also have to say that I've used it a few times to try and I do, as you know, a lot of work within building products, which aren't always the most sexy thing. And I find that when you've got a product that might seem a bit boring, it adds personality to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I probably write at least one a week. And I think they're a great way of demonstrating like third-party endorsement for products and services. Because the idea about content marketing is it shouldn't be a hard sell. So using case studies, you can demonstrate usefulness and relevance for, products. Because if you sort of say, oh, this product is really good and it does all this stuff, it sounds really cheesy often. But if one of your customers says that and says how wonderful it is, it sounds more powerful and relevant. And I think it also helps to place products in real life situations, which is really useful for potential customers.
That's so true. Well, let's talk about creating a strong case study. So how would you go about it? Because you do a lot of them. So do you have sort of a format that you use or?
Yeah, I do. I'll talk you through the template that I use. But I think a lot of the work is about finding the right customers. And also when you're dealing with clients, I'm sure the same with you. I often deal with marketing people, not the sales people. So I'm often talking to the marketing people, not the people that actually are engaging in the end customers. And sometimes, especially with big companies, there's a big disconnect. They're all in their little silos and it's really hard to find them. So one of my favorite tip is following my clients on Instagram. And also I follow all the hashtags that might be relevant for them, and which is a great way I've found people. So one example is like I've found some great case studies for my roofing client because I follow all the hashtags like hashtag Monia, which is their name, and hashtag roofing and hashtag Sydney roofers and all the things that are relevant. And it's surprising how many people, when they're building houses, add in the hashtags of all the products that they use. I do that with my brick clients as well. And I find really lovely images and great case studies that way. And I assume it'd be the same in industries. Like if you were doing some case studies for childcare centres or something, I'm sure there'd be relevant hashtags with that as well.
Or beauty products or.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, hospitality, cooking, food, all of that. That's interesting. But do you charge for that as a separate service, like that kind of research, customer research?
No, I don't. But I think it really is built into my project price because I know that I charge quite a lot for case studies. And I think one of the things all my clients say, they love the fact that I find them because they find that the most stressful. So I guess it's part of that value add and why I charge a premium. So it is sort of built in, I guess. And also I find that when people do things on Instagram and tag your clients, they're always pretty happy with the product. So you don't have to the worst thing is doing a case study and you ring up and somebody says, I really hate your company. So it's like you end up in a conversation you don't want to have. So that's always a good way of finding happy customers. And generally, when they've been tagging them on Instagram, I find that they're already happy to tell their story. They're not too private. They're quite happy to talk about it.
That's such a great tip. It wouldn't have occurred to me. I would have thought maybe Facebook groups or something like that, but that actually cuts out all the crap and all the, time wasting, just to use hashtags on Instagram and find those people.
Yeah.
But it's not a tip I've used, but I will remember that for the future.
Oh, good.
So you're interviewing these people. You're kind of
Yeah.
getting in touch with them and then interviewing them.
Yes, generally. I usually chat to them, and I prefer phone interviews. I mean, I know some people, there's a big conversation actually on Jennifer Gregory's website today all about phone interviews versus email interviews, and how some people hate phone interviews and email and different people. So that was quite interesting. But I find phone interviews are good because I think you get honest comments, and it makes the article and the case study sound more authentic and a bit more spontaneous. And also it means they're unique. Sometimes I've been sent emailed answers to questions for case studies, and I've had a couple of bad moments once when I was almost caught on plagiarism, because they basically copied and pasted everything from their website and sent it to me to put on my client's website. And unless you go back and check, I wouldn't have known it was duplicated copy. So that was really frustrating. It's a nightmare for SEO and things. So having original quotes via a phone interview is probably the best solution. Do you remember we did a great podcast? Well, I think it was great. A great podcast episode on interviewing.
Yes.
I looked it up. Series 4, episode 1.
Oh gosh, that was a while ago.
It was a little while ago.
Was it last year?
Last year. And it had lots of tips on doing good interviews and the sort of questions to get good information. So we won't go into it here.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Okay, well, I do some sort of interview-led case studies, but you are obviously doing way more than me. So talk us through how you might sort of structure your case study, or questions you might ask, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I usually start with a bit of an overview of the problem that the end customer presented to my client. And it's not that dissimilar from writing a story that you might for a magazine. So it's quite similar. So that's my approach. So like, say, take my roofing client as an example. It might be that the customer was looking to create a Hamptons look. Everyone loves the Hamptons look at the moment with their new house, and they wanted to find a tile that matched that. So that's where that aesthetic, and that's the problem that they have. Then I usually add in some quotes about their brief to the client and how they found them, and then we talk about the process, like what happened then and what they chose, what product they chose and why. And then it just goes to the result and how happy they are at the end. It sort of sounds like a bit of a formula, but because every customer is different and every situation brief is different, you end up with quite something special and quite unique every time. How do you do it?
Well, a lot of the case studies that I've been working on lately are like for the client's website portfolio. So the info a lot of the time will be supplied by the client, and it's sort of a sectional page. So it will have the objective, the solution, the result, and you just fill in those sections according to the information. And then I might have to put together a gallery of images about the product or the merchandise that they created for that client, and sort of make sure it's on brand with their other case studies, and it sort of is part of the portfolio and works well with that. So I do quite a few of those, but I did a interview type case study recently for one of my banking clients for their charitable foundation. So they basically find small businesses and give them funding for different things. So I absolutely love working for that arm of the bank, because I get to meet and talk to some absolutely incredible businesses and people I never even knew existed. And I can use them in other stories as well, which is really interesting. So, and they will always supply the person, and they'll say, this is who you're interviewing. They'll often give me the questions, which I completely ignore and write my own. I'll obviously look at them and see what they're trying to achieve with the case study, but generally it's better if I do my own thing with that. And there will have to be a slight mention of the funding that the foundation has given to that business and how it's helped them grow in some way. But the focus is also on the business. Like one that I did recently was a woman who had cancer 3 times. She was a 3-time cancer survivor, and she created this incredible exercise facility for cancer patients where they could get bespoke exercise workouts created for them. And, every type of treatment can have a different ramification for your body and your system. And so you really do need that really specific workout that's created for you. And there isn't anything really like it.
How wonderful to hear about things like that. It's
Just
so good.
amazing. It was one of the most incredible, stories, this woman's story. It was just so amazing. So I got to talk to her about how she came up with the idea and how she put it all together and how she got funding, and she actually created a charity for this
Wow.
institution. And anyway, I wrote the case study up, and it went up on the foundation's website, and it got picked up by the papers. So they did a big story on her, which kind of made me think, damn it, I would have liked to get that story in the paper. But I was glad that the case study had gotten picked up and she'd got a lot more sort of awareness for what she was doing. So my client was super happy, and so was she. So that was good.
Oh, that is awesome. I guess that sometimes case studies can act as a kind of press release for a company and the customer. And I've had a couple of my case studies picked up by design websites, like editorial website, which made everyone happy. And that's been quite good. The client's been happy, and often when they're really lovely stories. And I do find beautiful homes that are used by my clients that are then picked up by design magazines, which is great. Should we talk about what we charge for doing a client?
Well, I know that you said you charge a premium rate for your case study. So I think that you should start and tell us how much you charge and why.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the strengths of a case study, because there is a bit of work and there's interviews and everything. And I think that gives you the ability to charge more. And as we said earlier, like I try and make it easier for the clients by sourcing the case studies. And that is often a cause of stress and, hassle to them. So I usually charge about $700 for a case study, and it usually runs to sort of 600 or 700 words, depending. So I think that's quite good. Yeah. So that's really what I charge. And I think that's about standard for these sort of case studies.
Yeah, I charge $1 a word for case studies. So we sound like we're on the same par. And like you say, there's lots of work involved because there is interviewing and transcribing. And in your case, there's finding the source, which I don't generally have to do. But yeah.
I find it takes quite a bit of time to coordinate everyone. Like I do a lot of case studies for one of my builder clients, and they give me the names of the people to interview, but it takes a while to organize my time and their time. So it takes at least a week and sometimes more to line everyone up before I can start writing. And for new clients, it does take a while before I can develop that sort of pipeline of customers that are happy to talk about the product. So I do tend to invest a lot of time at the beginning that eventually pays off. And sometimes I find there's extra people to approve the copy. So there's often my client, like the company, but usually it's the customer as well. Because when you're doing this sort of endorsement, it's not like an editorial story. If somebody looks like they're endorsing a particular company, they want to be totally comfortable with what they have said and how it's going to appear. So sometimes I get a release form signed by the end customer. Sometimes the company does that. It just depends. Oh, and I also wanted to mention when I was doing the research, I remembered that now we both love Ed Gandia's podcast, which is all on content marketing, and it's fantastic. And he had a great interview quite a while ago, and I'll put the link in the show notes, for somebody who actually specializes just in case studies. So that's all she does. She does nothing else. And she mostly works in technology. So she has rather complicated bits of software. And then she speaks to like companies and firms and everything about the products. And so she makes well over 100K a year just on case studies, and she's turned it into a really successful business. And her discussing on the podcast episode, she really discusses it in detail, how she does it and why she does it. It's really interesting.
Oh God, I don't think I've heard that one. I'll have to track it down. Look, I do think that case studies is something, if you can add that to your services, it's a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily as hard or as daunting as some people might think it is, because I do think a lot of case studies are really templatized. But my only issue that I can see is if you're a writer and your client wants a professional kind of video case study, I don't think you should necessarily say no, but you could look at collaborating with a videographer and doing it that way, going in as a sort of project with someone else to do it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because until you raised it, didn't occur to me that that's a trend. And I think that you've got something there that's really interesting.
I think it is a trend. I think it's happening. Video case studies are being asked for more and more. So if that's something that you can offer, I think that could be good. But I also wanted to touch quickly on whether we should create case studies for our own websites, our own portfolios. I'm opening a can of worms because I haven't done this myself. But I'm sure that there would be freelancers out there wondering if it's a beneficial thing to do and if they should be doing it. Case studies for projects that you've worked on that the client was really happy about. And sometimes it's not something that you can get across in a 2-line testimonial. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is something I'll be meaning to do. And I have a few testimonials on my website, but case studies, I think, as you say, are a bit more powerful. And I know when you look at content agencies, a lot of agencies and advertising agencies do case studies. And it's obviously quite a powerful thing. Have you done any for Rachel's List?
No. But we should. We would probably have hundreds of awesome case studies, but we haven't actually done that. But we're in the midst of building a new site. So I'm considering whether we do a mixture of testimonials and video case studies. So yeah, it's something I am thinking about.
Oh, good idea. What about your own site?
No, I mentioned that I haven't done any for my own site. I haven't even started the blog. Don't rush me.
Fair enough. Or maybe we should be accountability buddies, So putting together a case study every month or something like that on each of our sites.
Okay, you're on. It will get us started at least.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so many things, so little time. Yes.
So many case study things.
Fantastic. But I think that brings us to the end of the show for the week.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for listening, and don't forget to rate and review the pod in your favorite app. And we'll see you next week. I think we've got a guest next week, Rach. So it'll be exciting.
We do. We have the fantastic Jessica Muddett, don't we?
We do.
Journalist.
Yeah.
Author. Amazing all-round person.
Fantastic. Well, look forward to having Jess next week. It'd be great.
Yes.
See you then.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.